members, also to our officers in the room and those joining us on the hybrid Zoom. First item on the agenda today before us is the apologies. I have apologies from Councillor Jill Waring and no other apologies, everybody else is here. Item 2, declarations of interest. Do we have any for those of items on the agenda? Okay. Item 3 is the minutes of the previous meeting, which were attached page 5 to 10. Could I have somebody move those as correct record? Thank you. First item on the agenda for us business-wise today is item 4, back on track, coronavirus pandemic recovery plan update. A series of these we've had during the throughout the summer and during the autumn time as we've gone from full lockdown to recovery. We're obviously now entering a phase now, as we've seen, with the government bringing in the through 3 tiers approach for obviously restrictions that come in to control the spread of coronavirus. And Newcastle, everybody will know, is currently in tier 1 for the moment. That is reviewed on a weekly basis. And as it says in the report there, as of yesterday, the figures were 1.41 cases per 100,000, a little bit lower than the previous day. But again, it's too early to say whether we're going to have any lower impact really of this as we go forward. So a number of measures which we've stepped up as a council, working with the county council and with also partners, is that a letter is going out to every business in the borough and also out to every household in the borough within the coming days. I believe the business ones have already gone, haven't they? And that the residents ones are quick to follow, asking people to obviously reminding them of the issues which we've got, and also start by thanking them for their sacrifices so far, and that we need to go and carry on a bit further here to get the spread under control in our population within the borough. The local outbreak board, which I sit on and represent the council, which is a county-wide body, has moved its meetings to weekly. So we're working very closely with the Director of Public Health and the leader of the county council, and our MP is also both of our MPs for the borough, particularly the town and Kidsgrove are playing into that as well to make representations to government on our behalf as they consider, obviously, weigh up the numbers and the risk against obviously the economic pain of closing businesses or restricting the way they operate, which was also a big part of the consideration when we look at our response to COVID-19. We've set up a multi-agency board under the chairmanship of the Deputy Leader, Councillor Sweeney, to ensure that all steps are taking place, particularly within the town centre. A number of partners involved. Stephen will outline those later, and that is particularly looking at the 18 to 25-year-old age group, which is seen to be an area where the virus is spreading within the borough, which is a serious risk for us, particularly as we have a lot of obviously students, and we're going to our universities and also to the university in Stoke, the Staffordshire University, as well as being on the doorstep of one of the regional hospitals, of course, which is in Stoke, but might as well be in the borough because of the border which we've got there. Our officers, our environmental health team, working tirelessly with the county and with businesses to ensure that COVID safety continues in our our pubs and our restaurants. And as far as I can see, that has really been working well and is not a source of great infections within the borough at the moment. And I think really the COVID marshal situation, which we brought in, which is we used some government money there to skill up some of our staff and our other staff who are out on the streets, just reminding people very sort of low level here to ensure that COVID security and COVID compliance takes place, particularly on the rule of 6 in our town centres and elsewhere, to ensure that obviously that law is applied to. So at that stage, before we go on to the detail of our recovery plan, I'm just going to open it up for comments and bring in Councillor Sweeney.
Thank you, Leader. The multi-agency board is set up now. It's going to include people such as the owners of accommodation, student union reps, Kiel University, Newcastle College, Staffs University, the county, the borough, the police. It's going to bring everything together under one sort of auspices of one committee, really. So everybody's working hard, everybody's doing different things. It's trying to bring everything together so we get a full picture of exactly what's happening and direct progress place as we go. Thank you.
Any other comments on the first part of the report on the latest situation? No. Okay. So really a positive message, really, given all the issues we're having, tier one, ourselves and the county want to remain there, and we're taking all the action we can to bring down that rate while protecting, obviously, livelihoods in the borough. So the recovery plan, as previously, has under 2.1 of the report, has a number of strands. Reopening our safe and successful town centres, supporting health and wellbeing, the economic recovery, the stepping up of council services, and the financial recovery. So on the first item there, which is the recovery of our reopening of our safe and successful retail centres, Steve, anything to update on that?
I'll just give a plug if I can to the Makers Market on Sunday. Makers Market's called here. The signs are calling it an artisan market, the same sort of thing, I think. Every stall is sold out, and there's in fact a waiting list for stalls on Sunday. So I recommend anybody who wants a couple of hours out in Newcastle, have a route around and see what there's to be bought. It's a nice atmosphere in Newcastle Town Centre is now, and I absolutely recommend it to anybody. Thank you.
And in a COVID and safe and secure way, people can still come into the market and obviously shop. And of course, if it's on a Sunday, it's free parking in the council car parks and in the on-street parking bays, but not in the areas where it's illegal to park at any time. Just to put that out there, because we have had some problems on a Sunday in the iron market. Paul.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, this is important. I can echo the Deputy Leader's comments in terms of the marketplace. This is working in tandem with retail that surrounds it and vice versa. It's really pleasing to know that the council's going in this direction and the market's been used more frequently in the past, and the work that's been put into that is really paying off now. So I'm really pleased to hear that, and also the range of market stalls that you've got on there, and the type of people that are looking to try and run a market is indicative of a time where bespoke businesses are coming onto line, and people are choosing to see what is available and what can be done whilst we undergoing this transitional period. So the temperature of the Newcastle town centre is very good, and also people need to know that Newcastle's open for business, that there's safe COVID secure areas to do their shopping and browsing, and that the marshals are underpinning this, that have been employed, the Leader has already said. So I'm really pleased for that.
Thank you, Paul. Helen, anything on Kids Grove, obviously our second town?
Just encouraging news, the same as with Newcastle. We've got an increase in footfall. It looks like people are coming back in, so supporting local businesses, and let's thank the council for the ongoing support that we're getting. Thank you.
Trevor.
Thank you, Leader. No, I just think if we could compare the market now to 3 years ago, there is no comparison. I think considering we've got COVID, I think we made tremendous strides. Okay.
Thank you. It's all about protecting that, isn't it, as we go forward with whatever happens over the winter period, is try to help our businesses in the town and our market traders to continue trading in a safe way, which is what the council has been doing from the start, as we've all said. Second section is support for health and wellbeing. Just bring in Helena, as this is your portfolio mainly.
Just a brief update. We're continuing our responsibilities to help and support some of our most vulnerable people in our borough. We have currently got 19 individuals in a mix of bed and breakfast and range of temporary accommodation, of which we are providing emergency accommodation since the March government's requirement to bring everybody in with COVID. I'll give a bit more of an update on our accommodation that's coming up a bit further on.
I think, as it says on the 2.10 there, we're still obviously looking to help those on low incomes, and particularly with the test and trace operation that's taking place. If people are asked to self-isolate, they're entitled to that £500 cash payout during that self-isolation period. So we're delivering that as well. Any other comments on health and wellbeing, part of the agenda. Okay, moving on to economic recovery. I think we've got a whole raft of things there which we're undertaking really on this, isn't it? And I think all cabinet members are involved in this through the advance money for the town deals, preparations for when we hear about the Future High Streets funding, which is a big thing for the town centre in Newcastle, just as the town deal is a big thing for Kids Grove. We're hoping to submit the TIP, which is the town investment plan, in October, by the end of October for Kids Grove, and early in the new year for the town. So these are massive things going forward and requiring a lot of officer time. I think we and also community group time, etc. For example, with Kids Grove Sports Centre, which is part of the plans to get us up and running on that project. So a lot going on this, but I think we also have to point out that obviously we were in a stage where obviously people have been losing their jobs within the borough, but the latest information that's come out today shows that we are slightly below the Staffordshire average, which makes a change in the news recently on averages where we are in Staffordshire on various charts, etc. And that obviously the recovered a bit, but still not obviously recovered to the pre-COVID levels, but it's not as bad as some areas. We have to watch that, I think, very closely. And of course, Paul, you're working with the skills and training group. Anything to sort of comment on that?
Thanks, Leader. Yes, just to say that we're monitoring the situation very closely. We haven't yet felt the full weight of an expected output in terms of job losses across the area. At the moment, as you say, Leader, we're slightly behind, but not to the expected levels that we thought at the height of the first stage of the pandemic. Close contacts with job support and also the educational establishment, and also the Aspire and the training arm from PM Training can report that they're making active steps to put in place skill matching for if there is any eventuality from redundancies that are unfortunately coming to pass. But as things stand at the moment, the demand for this hasn't exceeded supply, so it's in a fairly healthy situation as we are at the moment. But again, this could change as we get deeper into this. Thank you.
And I think just to emphasise, the government support that was announced by the Chancellor again to help businesses and those in employment to stay in employment. And I think as we talked about our advanced town deal money, the £1 million for Newcastle, a part of that is going into investing in a training and skills enterprise centre in the town centre to get service providers in there to help those in the population that have lost their jobs to this and might want to start a business or retrain for something. So that'll be up and running by the well before the spring, which is a good development for the town as well anyway. Next one is stepping up council services. Obviously, we're in a situation where we've reopened a lot of the council's services, such as J2 and the museum. Of course, as we go forward now with the changing tiers situation, if we do change a tier, that might obviously affect our leisure facilities, for example. But at the moment, we are obviously doing all we can. If Jill was here, she'd be talking about the situation with with J2, and that obviously we know about the issues with the large pool, which we've got a paper on later. But people are still using the gym, the small pool, and the dance studios at this moment in a COVID-safe way. Anything else on stepping up services from cabinet members, Steve?
It talks about taxi licensing, and taxi licensing is something that is starting to catch up now. It should be cleared in a few months. There are a lot of taxis, and it's a big job for our staff to do, but they're cracking on with it. Thank you.
Paul?
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, I'm particularly interested in the upstepping the food inspections. As restaurants and pubs are reopening, it's important to make sure that standards of food for customers is high, and that there isn't slippage in terms of how things are presented in terms of food, and that doesn't go under the radar. So I'm particularly interested in keeping an eye on that as we step services up in that area. Obviously, J2 is an important part of the town centre, and following August from a COVID secure basis, the attendances have grown steadily. notwithstanding this, the memberships have obviously in the report there have reduced by 25%. But we've also increased a reduction in membership fee to attract new customers. This is a positive step towards attracting people into the centre, and obviously maintaining that high level of security that that COVID needs is established and maintained. So that's a key thing for the council to do, and I'm particularly pleased that the council is making obviously steps to get that centre running to more viable capacity. Thank you.
Any other comments on the economic recovery part of it? I think just to add as well, obviously the pressures, as I pointed out in the agenda, obviously our environmental health team are carrying the burden on the COVID issues. We're obviously refreshing our medium-term financial strategy. We're coming ahead in November. A lot of work going on with the finance team and officers across the borough to gauge obviously the impact long-term of this COVID experience we're going through, and how we can make savings where we can, but also provide those key services going forward as we set budgets for the next few years. And on that economic recovery, financial recovery, sorry, item 3, there's a big section there, and I'll hand over to Steve just to give some highlights on that.
Yeah, it will just be highlights because it's the same report that we've seen a number of times. There are some additions though. If you read through the papers, you'll find various sort of sums are being given to the council, which is new money for us. There's 115,000 to minimise infections in high-risk areas. There's 60,000 for COVID marshals. There's 125,000 for emergency accommodation. Hannah's going to talk there about it next. That's actually another £300,000 that's come into the council's coffers. We're still waiting, and there's no reason we're not going to get it for the 1.5 million, which is the 75% of any shortfall of money we get. So apart from that, it's the same as we go, really, with an extra 300,000 put into the kitty. Thank you.
Any other comments on the financial recovery? As Stephen says there, we know we've got the obviously the money from the government, and we know there's promises of obviously when we have to provide more services that the government will give us the cash injection, particularly when it comes as we're entering the winter period, for example, on the homelessness front, which we've been talking about, and we'll talk about more as we go through. There are obviously clear government directions on that, and they're putting cash behind that, which is good. Paul.
Thanks, Leader. Yes, and it's also important that the council, in terms of its business rates, at the moment across our portfolio of properties that we own and the business enterprise initiatives that are occupying our properties, at the moment it's very healthy. The vacancy rate is low, which is a real positive thing, because in terms of the recovery, we're going to need that much needed income to underpin the council services. So that's good news.
Thank you on that. Any other comments on that? No. Okay, so we've been through our report there, and of course I think that the public in Newcastle can be rest assured that ourselves and our partners, particularly the county council, from a public health point of view, are obviously doing all we can to reduce the infection and the spread in Newcastle, and also have an eye on the fact that we want businesses to remain open as much as possible for the importance that has for the economy, and also for mental health and all sorts of things that we're reacting to an issue which has been going on a long time now, but there's a certain amount of time to go. And we obviously take the lead from the government on that, and wait for further messages so that we can implement them locally. Okay, recommendation before us that we note and endorse the work taken, and obviously we debated it, and just as we always do, I think just to end, to thank all officers across the council, from the executive team down to the front line throughout, for the work that they have done and will continue to do on behalf of the residents. So I think we all echo that as well. And if that could be passed on through the various channels via Chief Executive and Directors, that would be great. Thank you then. We'll move on to our next item on the agenda, which is that temporary accommodation provision for the 1st of November 2020 till 31st of March 2021. And Helen is going to introduce this. Over to you, Helen.
Thank you, Leader. The temporary accommodation provision links in with what I just said previously about continuing in our responsibilities to help and support our most vulnerable people. The council secured £125,000 from the government to support this ongoing pressure to provide emergency accommodation for homeless people. The use of these funds would be included to enter into contracts for supported accommodation for the remainder of this financial year, as you said, to 31st of March. There was a temporary accommodation review was undertaken and recommended that a mini procurement exercise was undertaken to identify some preferred partners and best accommodation options and costing for our homeless people. The temporary accommodation review evidenced that supported housing was more cost effective than bed and breakfast accommodation, which also doesn't have the added advantage of support services. Open Door, Stoke-on-Trent are our current providers, and this will ensure a smooth continuation of service, and vulnerable residents will not be asked to move accommodation or support workers, which may be unsettling to them. This continuation of service ensures vulnerable previous rough sleepers will not simply return to the streets. The needs of the client group will continue, and the council will then be able to plan for the medium term to ensure appropriate provision is available. So the further proposals beyond the 31st March, obviously for 1st of April 2021, Newcastle Housing advice provided by Midland Heart Limited on behalf of the council. This paper that's in front of you, then I'm more than happy. I'm quite happy to give my backing to this. I think cabinet approval will push this forward, and it'd be a positive to us. Thank you.
Thank you for that. The recommendations as printed are moved by Helena. Could I have some comments, Paul?
Thank you, Leader. Yes, I welcome this report and endorse it 100%. It underlines the good work that Newcastle Council are doing in terms of its responsibilities to the people that are a little bit less fortunate than ourselves and come under that bracket of homeless. It's important to understand that we've put these mechanisms in place, and the hard work of officers and a member beside me here that's stayed on top of this, despite very difficult times, that the council has put in place and delivered this excellent idea going forward. So yes, 100% behind this. It's good news for Newcastle. It's good news for the residents. It's good news for the homeless, which is aimed at, that it gives them that reassurance that that umbrella of care is there and in place, and that we do care as a council going forward. Thank you.
Okay, Trevor.
Thank you, Leader. No, I agree with that. You know, what more can we do? You know, we are actually doing more than a lot of authorities to provide this sort of facility for them. So I fully endorse it.
Okay, Stephen.
I've got nothing to add apart from what's already been said. I totally endorse this. Thank you.
My endorsement to that as well, and thank you for Helena for bringing this forward, as you say, in an important provision which we're providing. And we've got the recommendations there before us, 1, 2 and 3. Do we all agree them?
Agreed.
Thank you. Moving then to the next item, which is the Jubilee 2 update. I'm sure, of course, Jill would have been here to introduce this and have been working with officers on this since she took this part of the portfolio over. I think we've had a number of problems over the years with J2. I think everybody would acknowledge that, and they're detailed in the report, as we've seen: the leaking roof, the closure of the aqua sauna, and now in recent months, the closure of the main pool due to a loss of water. I think this administration, when it came in the end of 2017, has really sort of taken this task seriously. One of the first visits I had as leader with the previous portfolio holder, Councillor Mark Holland, was to visit J2 to look at some of these issues, which had been going on for a number of years, and we felt that we needed to address them. And that didn't really get impetus until we had our new chief executive, Martin, to come in, and I think after that we really got down to the core of the issue, and obviously got the dialogue going with Morgan Sindall, obviously the contractor that built the centre for us, and they've, as it says under there, they've beginning to address and accepting the poor workmanship, and have obviously taken steps to start to put some of these things right. And of course, on the back of that, the recent thing is the pool closure, which has led to obviously another investigation and trying to find the cause and obviously get a solution, and that is beginning to take place now. And again, Morgan Sindall are working very closely with us, so thank you to them for coming on board and accepting the issues from the build and helping us to sort that out, which is our, and always was supposed to be our our premier leisure facility in the borough, and still is and still will be, and we're working to do that. And I think the recommendations before us is that we endorse the approach taken. I'd like to move that we do that, and we thank our chief executive for the work that he's done, also the previous portfolio holder Mark Holland, and also Jill for the work that they've done on really sort of pressing this forward and looking to address the ongoing building defects as we are doing. And then the second item is that the executive director for commercial development asked for a further survey of work to be taken to actually do a full survey of this building to find if there are any other undiscovered defects. I mean, we thought we'd done with it before the pool issue raised its head. So what else is there? Are some common defects there which could be replicated throughout the building. We want this building to be safe, secure, and also get the lifespan out of it which we deserve from the money which the council put into it at the end of the last decade. So well, actually the decade before, the 2010s, of course. So I think it's important that we do that, and it's important that we get to the bottom of these and solve these issues, and we've got a programme to do that, working with the contractor and our officers, and we're getting the results on that. So I will open it up now to some comments. Councillor Sweeney, Stephen.
Yeah, thank you, leader. Yeah, I read this report with interest. I'm sure we all did. 1.2, it has been a priority of the current administration to deal with the long-standing building defects. Long-standing. Since the opening of Jubilee 2, there have been ongoing issues with roof leaks around the building. 2.6, the Aqua Sauna Health Suite, which is on the first floor, initially started leaking water into the ground floor training village in 2014. I wonder, could the report investigate what actions this council took since the building opened to repair these levels, or did it just sort of put buckets underneath the leaking roofs for years upon year and not actually doing anything? And it took us and the chief executive to actually do something about this rather than just monitoring the situation. Thank you.
Yeah, I think Councillor Sweeney, Stephen, you've hit on a point there, isn't it? And I think if members wish to do that, we can sort of expand this to look at some of the history of this and what went on really. And you've named some dates there of when roofs were leaking, and the issue with the aqua sauna was allowed to, that drip effect went on for many years, which has caused issues in other parts of the building beneath it. So I think, yeah, if you want, I would certainly support that we do add a recommendation that look at the historical decision making and the historical sort of chasing up of some of the issues which were plain to everybody, I think. And I can remember being in opposition on this council in the mid of the last decade and writing to then chief exec to raise concerns that residents were raising with me about the quality of the offer there because of the issues with the changing facilities, etc., and the general way the building was actually run in those days too. And I passed that on, and it seems that nothing really happened with that over the preceding years. And then when we came in 2017, we've redoubled the efforts. The end of 2017, redoubled the efforts, and we've got some good results now, and we were in a position where we can deal with the pool issue that's risen now in the last month or so. So yes, I think we'll add that to the recommendation. Stephen, thank you for that. Paul.
Yeah, thank you, leader. Yeah, the deputy leader raises a very good point. We are where we are now, in a great position in terms of getting the defects done. And I'd just like to extend my thanks to the chief executive and the executive management team, along with officers working with this. The concerning thing is that whilst it was built and opened in 2012, that things were allowed to go on for so long and not be addressed. Something this administration, as the leader has pointed out, has got on top of in terms of bringing the workmen to account that put this project together. It's quite clearly it wasn't, some of the things weren't fit for purpose, and it's encouraging to hear that there is now open dialogue with the builders and in terms of accepting the responsibility to put the defects right, because this should have been right from the beginning. It wasn't, and we're left with the legacy issues to rectify that, and we've made good inroads for that. And I thank the leader and the portfolio holder, the previous portfolio holder too, Mark Holland, as you said, leader, for keeping the pressure on and making sure that the directive is to get this important facility that we were behind and still are behind, back up and running at full capacity that it's designed to for the residents of Newcastle as a very important sporting and leisure facility for all to enjoy. Thank you.
Trevor?
Thank you, Leader. It comes down to quality and the monitoring of the quality of the workmanship. And I think we've learned a lesson from this for any future projects that we undertake, that we've got to really clamp down on inspecting the works as they go, that we have less faults. Okay.
Any other comments? No? Okay. So, yeah, we'll repeat what we've said, and I think we'll add the recommendation as a recommendation through that a review of the the historical issues that have risen from J2, dating back to when it opened in 2012, I think is what we're looking for there. And that be added to, obviously, a report to come to this council, and then we can obviously refer it to the scrutiny committee, because I believe some members are interested in scrutinising it. But we will be going back over the years to find out, what went wrong and what wasn't done on this facility. And just to emphasise, we've now, since we've come in, been doubling our effort to put it right, and we're dealing with the latest thing that's come up recently, and we will get that pool open in good time, and hopefully it will be able to be used by the public again. So the three recommendations then before us, do we all agree those? Okay, thank you. Right, item 7 is the forward plan as attached. As we do, we go through this page by page. This is covering the next 3 months. I think looking at the November period, we've got a very busy period there coming up with the MTFS and some big decisions to make at our November meeting, which is always pleasing that we're moving the agenda of the borough forward. And then we've got December there, which is the important air quality implementation plan is coming to us then. More about that as that's going through scrutiny in November. And then we've got our sustainable environment strategy, which is obviously had some steer from scrutiny in our officers and our portfolio holder working on a sustainable environment strategy for the borough, which will help us to address some of the issues and also the carbon reduction issues which we have in the borough. And then obviously in January, we've got there the renewal bid, Newcastle Business Improvement District ballot, and then the town centre investment plan for the town of Newcastle. And of course, in earlier on in that, in the November meeting, we'll be looking at the Kisgrove version of the town centre investment plan as we discussed earlier. So can we agree the forward plan as stated? And that will now be published on the website for the public to have a look at the business that's coming down the line for the council. Item 8 is urgent business. I do have a piece of urgent business and a report which is asking that we support the adoption of the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance definition of anti-Semitism, and ask officers to prepare a report for the next full council meeting to allow council members to endorse its inclusion in the council's policies and practices. Bit of history to this. As you know, the government did request that all councils adopt this. This council was going to take a report to its April meeting in 2020. That, of course, everybody knows, was cancelled right at the beginning of the lockdown, and we were unable to do that. So we want to put a marker in the ground now that obviously this cabinet supports the adoption of the IHRA definition, and that obviously a report be brought to full council so we can adopt that as a full council. And I don't think there'll be any political issues with that. I've spoken to the opposition leader today, and he endorses this approach, and I'm sure everybody will support the definition. The definition is there, as you can see under the background there, and there's also a link there which is for more background information on this. So I will move that recommendation, and obviously look forward to at our next council meeting receiving the report for us to adopt that, and then obviously the implications for our council policies and practices as we take that forward. Open it up to any comments now, Stephen.
I just agree entirely with you, and I look forward to it going to next full council, and I totally absolutely endorse it. I'm sure everybody else will. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, 100% behind this. It's important that we don't lose the lessons that we've learned in the past, and not to deny that this has ever happened, but to make sure that the anti-Semitism that's is stamped out whenever we can. This is not to be tolerated at all in a modern society. Not to say that it shouldn't have been in the past, but we are where we are now, and we have a duty as a council to make sure that we stamp this out. So signing up to this is a very important thing to do, and I look forward to this report coming to full council in the future. Thank you.
Anna?
Councillor Northcott has essentially said everything that I was going to say, so thank you.
Same from here, Leader. It's all been said.
Okay, and of course, this council's got a record of passing motions against any form of racial discrimination against from wherever it may be, and we did that, I think, at the spring of 2019 now, wasn't it? I think we passed a motion which is cross-party support, and we'll be pleased to accept this. But this cabinet does endorse and support the adoption of the definition of anti-Semitism by the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, and then I'll ask our officers to put a report into full council at our next meeting to endorse for members be able to endorse that for the inclusion in our council policies and practices. All agreed?
Agreed, ma'am.
Thank you. That's great. I don't have any other urgent business. I don't have any business that requires the exclusion of the public. I haven't had any questions from any councillors or from members of the public. So that concludes our meeting today. Thank you for attending.